Whenever you're ready.
Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing well. I'm Saurabheshwar Sen, founder of Catalyst, welcoming all of you to the session today. At Catalyst, since 2011, we have been training students from schools, colleges, universities, and working professionals for careers in the social development sector. More than 500 aspirants from Catalyst over these years have secured admissions into bachelor's and master's courses in social sciences at institutions in India and abroad, and have eventually progressed to work in professional capacities as social workers, entrepreneurs, policy analysts, journalists, media and cultural researchers, human resource managers, capacity building trainers with government, private organizations, research institutions, civil society, as well as think tanks. Talking of social sciences, if we carefully examine the two words, social, leading to our society, and sciences, connected to, say, formulated knowledge, leading to informed choices and decisions, the 190 days of lockdown in India has amplified the requirement to take care of lives and livelihoods through inclusive and sustainable steps that we need to take to stay afloat and also safeguard ourselves from the SARS-CoV-19. This calls for an extensive, deep learning and cognizance of our social fabric to minimize the friction that is already causing widespread conflict across different walks of our lives. On that note of minimizing conflict, I'm delighted to welcome our speaker for the session, Kusumika Ghosh, researcher at Calcutta Research Group, Ph.D. scholar at Dublin City University, co-author of Landscape of Conflicts and Peace in Northeast, The Role of Religion. It is one of the books which I personally feel has been such a strong reflection of the things around us, and people who want to get a hold of the book should definitely get in touch with either us or Kusumika. And very, very interestingly, and with a lot of pride, I want to also share that Kusumika was part of our class in 2016. So Kusumika would be discussing the role of research as a career choice in social sciences. And I would request all of you to be as interactive as possible. In fact, Kusumika's been part of Catalyst almost from the time she possibly enrolled with us. Like, she left Catalyst, she went to TIS, she was still in touch with us. She would always share a lot of ideas. Eventually, after her master's, she started working with us as a mentor to aspiring students for the development sector. In the last 2 years, very notably, Kusumika has been conducting her flagship certificate course on research in social sciences, and some of the participants from the two cohorts in 2019 and 2020 are actually present here today. So I welcome all of you. I welcome everyone to the session on behalf of Catalyst to take your time out on a Saturday to be with us, to be with Kusumika, deliberate, discuss, and plan the nuances of research in social sciences. Without a further delay, I want to hand the baton to Kusumika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very elaborate introduction. So I'm not going to show any slides. I'm not going to do any speech. What I'm here today is, a lot of you who are present here have actually asked for this session. I can see Mahesh, I can see Sudeshna, I can see Malika, the rest of the guys who was doing the certificate course. And one day they were talking and they were like, can you hold something which is going to give us some direction on what essentially do we do with research, right? If we do get a PhD, how to get it? And what do we do with a PhD, right? Because once you're out of college, you also have to think in terms of making money, right? It doesn't go away. So no matter who you are, where you're from, a career essentially means that you also have to earn your livelihood and doing what you love. So the two can be a little daunting. I see my friend Ria also. Hi, Ria. So, a lot of you are here today. I am going to do a short introduction of myself first. Introduction, I'm not going to tell you what are the degrees I have and all. I'm going to tell you what I did after what and how things panned out and what I'm planning ahead, right? After that, I'm open for questions, whatever you guys have to ask. I'll be sharing some resources with you guys also, like small stuff, right? How to write a proposal or um, how to draft a proper CV, for instance, which is the most important thing. And please bear in mind that I am also in the learning process, right? The whole point of doing this is because I have had so many people help me. When I started thinking about doing a PhD, I have had all these people guiding me. When I started thinking about doing a master's, like Sir is sitting here, I joined Catalyst and they guided me. So this is just me paying it forward, right? So I may not be absolutely accurate in all of it, but know that these are the options which have worked out for me. So if you take it, there is a chance that it will also work out for you. That's the whole point. Right. So on that note, we have called today's session Research in Social Sciences and how to make a career out of it and all. And I know most of you here are either in your master's or last year of undergraduation. I see people from TIS. I know people who are aspiring to get in there. I see friends from the Northeast. Thank you for joining. Right. So what I will tell you is my career, right? First, let's have a brief on that. I had my schooling done from one school. I joined in 2000 and I left in 2013. And no, I did not fail a year. It was 1 year of upper KG. So no need to get judgmental. So I did it from a school, Haryana Vidya Mandir. I had humanities in my class 12 because I really wanted it, right? And my school didn't give me many options. So I had like the core humanity subjects. I had history, I had geography, I had political science, I had economics, and then I had the languages. So from there, I moved to my undergraduation, which happened without an entrance exam. Okay. I did not know the world of entrance because simply I'm from St. Xavier's. I did my master's from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, and we could get in political science simply with our marks, right? We didn't need to sit for an exam. And incidentally, Xavier's releases its cutoff and its admission lists way before others. So once I got through Xavier's, I didn't really think of sitting for others also, right? So twist of plans. I had originally planned to go for English. I applied to a lot of colleges, got through all of them except in Xavier's because they were not preferring CBSE students in English. And political science, I had incidentally applied only in Xavier's, right? And I got through that. So, okay, I took that and I did my bachelor's in political science honors. I had sociology and history for my minors, right? We call them past subjects. And then I had languages and compulsory papers, so on and so forth. How I got into peace and conflict studies for my master's is another, because I hadn't planned it. I thought I would go into women's studies. Sir knows this. So TIS offers women's studies in Mumbai and Hyderabad, right? I had applied for Mumbai campus women's studies, but I did not know that TIS applications work on that preference basis. Okay, that if you put in a course first, then whether you qualify for the rest or not, you'll be considered first for that. Okay, I did not know, and I put peace and conflict above women's studies. So I gave my interview for women's studies. I was so flattered. I thought I was definitely getting in, right? I was having the time of my life. Then I met my friend there, and he was like, oh, you don't know, it works that way. So even if you've done very well, think about PAX, and if you get through that, then it's PAX. And I was pissed. I did not want to do peace and conflict. Like, it was my back option. I did it because it sounded interesting. Okay. I read the course description on the TIS website and it sounded new. There were not a lot of colleges in the country which was offering something like that. Right. So, and it sounded also like something that I could relate to with my political science, my sociology background and all. But after I got into PAX, I realized that it didn't have much to do with my pol science socio backgrounds at all. It might have given me an edge in the foundation courses that we have in TIS. Those are these equalizing courses that are compulsory for everyone to take, right? So we are taught about basics of all of these. We were bored to death in class. Ria and I would often talk. She's also here. We didn't want to do our FC classes. But, you know, doing my master's in TIS was actually setting the tone for me wanting to stay in research for a few reasons. First of all, peace and conflict studies is a research intensive MA, right? In other countries, we often call it MRes, Masters in Research, separately. And now, with the new education policy coming in, you'll find a lot more emphasis on research in undergraduate level, in postgraduate level. Things up until now, an MPhil made sense in the Indian context because we were not taught the basic skills. So many big universities in the country still do not have, you know, um, a dissertation in their masters, let alone bachelors, right? It's only a few institutions that do it, but it is not a fixed thing that, if you have a master's, you'll have a dissertation. It's not. Big colleges also do not give you that facility. So doing an MPhil makes sense. If anyone is confused, I'm sure none of you are, but when I was in school, I couldn't make sense of what came after what. Like I used to think, oh, BA, then MA, or BA, MPhil, MA. So I was confused. So I'll just lay out the order. You do your high school, then you do your bachelor's, then you do your master's, then comes MPhil. MPhil is actually another master's, except it is called Masters in Philosophy, right? And that is supposed to be like a middle stone for your PhD. A lot of people only do their MPhil, especially if they are from backgrounds of like psychology and psychiatric social work, because these people get their licenses from the MPhil and they can start practicing. I have friends who are doing that. There are people from TIS here who know that, right? But now with the new education policy coming in, and right now it may not make a big difference, but eventually it will. So scrapping of MPhil is the first thing that's going to happen, which means no admissions into MPhil in the nearest future you can think about, right? So for those of you who have been thinking about getting into a PhD, the road becomes a little more confusing. Like, how do you get there then? Because, and this is not to insult anyone's intelligence, because I have also been there. Even after doing a research intensive master's, I didn't know much about research. Okay. I knew how to do interviews. Sure, I was trained. I knew how to do some amount of academic writing, right? I knew how to do citations very vaguely, but I knew basics I could get through. It is actually so. I was telling you earlier that I'll tell you the choices I have made with my career and where they have landed me. After masters, I tried to get into an MPhil, okay, but I was one of those people who thought that the world would come to her on a platter because she has good marks. Okay, because that's how the world made me think. Okay, that's how I got out of school, got straight into college. Even before I was done with Xavier's, I was through TIS. And of course, I gave an entrance in TIS, but it wasn't all that. Okay, it was some amount of preparation. But after I sat for the interviews and all, it was not like I had to prepare years for it. In fact, I had joined Catalyst in October, if I'm not wrong, a little before pujas or something. And TISnet happens in January, right? And I am terrible in maths. Okay, and maths is like a significant part of that entrance exam. But like I'm telling you, these entrances are supposed to be an equalizer. They are supposed to give an opportunity to everyone. Suppose someone has a little bit of, a little lesser marks than you. If it's only the admission is based on only marks, then they will never get in with you, right? But when you go for an entrance and then an interview and then get in, you know that they are not only looking at your marks. They are evaluating your personality. They are checking, often when you get into masters, at least in places like this where you have like these interdisciplinary masters, they are not very keen on checking your knowledge. Okay, they are keen on checking your learning aptitude. What's your politics? How much do you, how open are you to learning new things, right? Or what's your background? What will you do with your background? All these things make sense. And I'm talking from a purely social science perspective because that's where I'm from. I'm not qualified to give you ideas on a scientific PhD. Like, you'll have to go to my mom for that. So that's not my expertise. This is what I do. So after this, I got out and I had a gold medal, and I thought that is going to get me through anywhere I want to, right? Why do I care much? And also, the last few months were insanely busy in our masters. We were doing our dissertations, we were packing our bags to shift back home, we were preparing for exams, and somehow I missed out on applying to places for MPhil, right? My classmates were applying, but I just thought, oh, there's time, right? I'll move back home and then I'll figure out what I want to do. I came back home and I had nothing to do. Okay. I came back home in June and I was blank because I remember back then only two places had applications still going on. That was Delhi University and that was Ambedkar University in Delhi. Delhi University, you know how elaborate their process is. Anyone who's applied for DU, they will know they have an insane length of the form. Their applications go on forever, their exams go on forever, and their results in my year, they didn't come out. Okay, it was declared a 0 year because a lot of problems were going on. A lot of protests were happening for some reservation. So my effective choice was Ambedkar University. I went. I loved the university. Okay, Ambedkar University has a vibe. If you are left politics oriented, if you are vocal, if you want to have a college life beyond your classroom, it is a great place. Okay, you'll enter, you'll see walls of graffiti, you'll see people who are really passionate about what they're talking about. It's nice. I liked the place, I vibed with it. I got through the written exam, right? Then there is one round of interview and I got through that. Then there is the second round of interview, right? The second round of interview is what I didn't get through. Now, it doesn't matter that I got through the first two because unless I get through the last, I don't get to go through, right? So Ambedkar failed. Okay, I came back to Kolkata and I was not sure what I'm doing with life. For the first time in my 21 years of existence, I was blank. Okay, because ever since I've remembered, I have been with some educational institution. And it's a real trauma not being in a classroom. Okay, when you realize that, when people ask you, what are you doing? You're like, I don't know. Okay, and I did not want to take the route of IAS, IPS, UPSC exams, WBCS. I said no. Okay, I'm not preparing for those exams because a lot of my family were insisting that if you are sitting a year out, better start preparing and then sit for your exams. There's nothing wrong in sitting for those exams. If you're one of those people who would like to take a career in civil administration, please go ahead. Okay, but it's just not something that I vibed with. So I dropped that out. Now, what worked out for me is I sat for an interview in an organization called Northeastern Social Research Center. Okay, it's this research organization in Guwahati. They had opened a position for a research associate, and it's very particular, okay, because it's a peace project. Okay, the research project is called Conflict Transformation and Peace Building in the Northeast, and they had very specific requirements. Like, my MA was like built for that. So I went for the interview before going to Ambedkar, but I had failed the interview. Someone else got hired. So I wasn't even considering that. But I came back from Ambedkar not even 3 days in, and I got a call from them that whoever was hired could not take it because there's a lot of field, right? You need to travel a lot. It didn't sit well with them. So they have asked me to come in and join. And all of this happens within a week, and I'm back in Guwahati, right? And that's where I spent the next like 9, 10 months of my life, which actually laid the formation of my research. Okay, foundation, absolutely. Because at NESRC, I did work from scratch. From formulating a research proposal, I was simply given the topic. Okay. And there is a difference between all these positions. Like, it might not sound like a lot to you, but a research associate is above. Then comes a research assistant, right? Then there are the field coordinators, there are data collectors, all these people. Then there will be people who will help you with the technicalities of stuff. The CCRSS2 people will remember entering data into an Excel sheet, right? So when you do a big project, you have people who do it for you for a certain amount of money, right? So I was the associate. I was 21 years old. There were people working under me who were like around 30. And I had to tell everyone what to do. right? So that's confusing. But that also forces you to step up and do work. I was simply given a title that I will be researching religion, right? Religion and its impact in the Northeast. So, how does religion have an impact on conflict? How does religion have an impact on peace? The questionnaire and everything drafted sitting together with Walter. Walter Fernandez is also a very renowned professor, scholar, uh, everything that you need when it comes to Northeast, right? He is also the founder of NESRC. He's 82 and he's still like traveling like never before. Okay. So he was my boss. I was working with him. Uh, while doing that research, the first thing I learned how to travel to the fields, right? If you are planning a career in social science research, okay, and it is not of a very legal character where you only have to do literature review, if it involves any kind of field work, please be prepared to have to go anywhere, okay, to have to settle in any kind of atmosphere with any kind of people. So when I was interviewing people who have surrendered to the government as leaders of revolutionary outfits before. I was also securing interviews with people who are actively in insurgent outfits right now. Okay. And then I was having interviews with, say, church leaders. So I would go in and say, "Good morning, Father." And then on the other hand, I would go in and talk to these people who are sitting in their camps and everything, right? So you have to know how to do your field work. How do you know that? First of all, be ready to travel. I mean, that's also one of the perks of being a researcher, that you're a paid traveler. Okay. They cover your expenses, but then don't think you're going to get treated royally. You'll probably have to stay. And honestly, a good research, especially if you're doing something like an ethnography, and ethnography is an anthropological method where you stay in with your research universe, where you stay in with the people you are interviewing, right? And you do not interview them, you learn from their life. So suppose if I am doing a research on the living conditions of tea garden laborers of somewhere in North Bengal, right? And if mine is an ethnographic study, I am going to go and I'm going to decide what amount of time I'll spend with them. But I am going to go and live preferably with one of them or as one of them, right? And I'm going to go through all the activities that they do in their daily life. Now, there is a debate between what are participatory methods and what are non participatory methods in questions like these, because will I be then going and picking tea leaves or driving around the tea garden or whatever their job is, or will I simply accompany them? Then is it participatory or non participatory? All these debates are for insight when you get into research, when you talk to your guide or when you talk to your boss and you figure that out, right? So, what I'm telling you here is I had to step out of my comfort zone. And if any of you are aspiring to be a researcher in future, that is going to be your central premise. Okay. You will not be where you have been born and brought up. You will be with people who are very different from you. Um, you will, if you're actually doing research in sensitive areas, okay, if you're doing research in a conflict zone, if you're doing research in an area that has experienced, say, a disaster, okay, you will have to have a specific set of skills. You will have to have a specific set of ethics that come with those. You are not going to be one of those journalists who walk into an alley and shove up their mic up the face of the victim's father or someone who has died, their family, and say, "How does it feel?" Okay. Unfortunately, that brand of journalism is dominating India right now. But as researchers, please stay far, far away from that, right? So, how is research different from journalism anyway? Okay, because journalism also requires you to do some kind of research. You need to know the background, right? You need to know what kind of case you're reporting. You need to know what happened there. And all of that forms part of research, except in academic research, you analyze. Okay? So while a journalist will report or a reporter will report, there are also opinion pieces, there are also analysis pieces, and all these are parts of journalism for which you need significant research skills, mind you. You need to know how to read, you need to know how to write, you need to know how to do fact checking, right? How not to confuse news and fake news. But as an academic researcher, you have significantly different concepts from a journalist. Okay, what are these concepts? One, of course, you engage a lot more with theory. Okay, of course you do. There is no way around it. Even if you think that, oh, research is all about theory, I just read something that some person has said and something that another person has said and cut paste and make my own paper out of it. No, that's not how it works. First of all, Turnitin is a software that will check for plagiarism and catch you. Okay, and if they catch you for plagiarism, your career in research is over. Okay, so like we used to memorize this like a holy book, that no plagiarism, right? So even if you're borrowing an idea, not something that you have exactly written, not something that someone else has exactly written, but you are simply like they taking the essence of what they have written, you'll still cite them. That's the whole point, right? So in research, in the academic research community, it is hugely lacking, but we are the new generation, so we can try to improvise a little bit on that. Apart from that, also, you have to understand that research takes a long time. To have a career in research, to be a researcher, you need a PhD, right? It's a license to get into academia. What is the academia? Where you have thinkers, where you have analysts, where you have professors, where you have scholars, where you have people who are just into research all their lives and not teaching, and you want to become a member of that community. As a social science researcher, you take up problems from the society and approach it from an academic point of view while also offering empirical solutions. You are doing all those theories so that you can apply those to your society and see what is falling short, and preferably come out with some kind of suggestion, right? You don't have to change the world with your first research. It doesn't happen. That's why you can take out a shit ton of like bad quality research papers in the beginning when you're just writing. That is the whole point of why I even hold the certificate course, that people should get used to writing first, and then you can move on to thinking about making a substantial contribution. But yes, you should always have that contribution question in your mind. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on what is research in social science. The main part of this session today, webinar today, is also how to get a PhD, right? How to start the process, or when do you begin thinking about it, or what you want to start doing about it. And for that, the field is open to you guys. Ask me your questions. You can raise your hand, you can unmute. And if you simply want to know how I did it, that also works. Let me know what you want to hear. You can type in your questions in the chat box. Until then, I'm just going to tell you what I am doing research wise for the time being. Or actually, I'm going to tell you how I got a place into a PhD, right? That I really wanted. So I think most of you are here today for that. So what happened is, remember I told you up until NESRC, the career trajectory of what I did, right? So I published a book with Northeastern Social Research Center, like Sir just said. Then I quit that job because I felt like now I want to try for PhD. Now I feel a little more ready. Okay. And trust me, you will never quite feel ready. You just have to take the leap. But if you take my advice, I will strongly suggest some work experience before applying for a PhD. Ideally 2 years. Okay. A lot of universities in India also, if you're applying for a direct PhD, of course you have to give your net and all, right? But they ask you for a 2 years. For instance, I thought of applying to JNU Women's Studies. I talked to the HOD there, and she told me, and I was fresh out of master's. I had gone with a research proposal, which now when I look back on, I see how inadequate it was. But it was the best I could do back then, because it was the best I knew back then, right? And she told me that put 2 years into writing your research proposal while you work on things that you have written, and then come back. Okay? So whoever's thinking of doing a PhD, please get some work experience, and not irrelevant work experience, mind you. Your work experience should be in research. Find organizations, research institutions. There is ORF, Observer Research Foundation in Kolkata. There is the Calcutta Research Group where I work. We offer internships. There is NESRC where you can join as a research associate or you can work as an intern. There are a lot of places, okay? And Right, Aishwarya, I see your question. I'll get back to you. So, uh, a lot of avenues are there. What I'll tell you is, if you are young and if you're starting off, taking a year or two off from like going into a classroom and getting relevant work experience, going to a crowd, like going to someone, some famous researcher, some professor, asking them to let you intern with them, right? Whatever works for you, please get that, because when you sit for your interviews, and especially in colleges abroad, they are going to ask you, okay? Because in the Indian system, we do it very like chain line wise. We are like, oh, okay, high school, bachelor's, master's, MPhil, PhD. They don't go it like that, right? So it's not a compulsion for everyone there to do an MA. But here, almost all of us who are sitting here will think about, doing their masters after their bachelor's, right? So you need to qualify your choices there. For that, work experience is crucial. Also, please try to have one published, actually two published articles, okay, in a peer reviewed journal, right? Not just anywhere. In a peer reviewed journal, try to have like writing pieces wherever you can, okay? Try to go to your professors in your colleges, in your universities, ask them if they would like to write a paper with you, okay? Because that ups your chances of getting published. Because as a new researcher, you don't get that much, but when a professor writes with you, it just gives you a better chance, right? I will take the questions. Aishwarya Datta, you're saying, what is the process to get into a PhD in UK? Could you tell me how to go about it? I'm interested to pursue my research and displacement. Aishwarya, would you unmute yourself, please? And if you can, like, let me see you so we can talk.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, this is Ashwarya here.
Hi. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to take your question. I
Yeah.
was also applying for PhDs to the UK. Can I know what you're doing now?
Okay, I have just given my master's final year exam. I did my
Right.
master's from political science at the University of Delhi. So I'm
Right.
waiting for my results currently. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So perfect. So right now, first of all, there are two ways to go about a PhD in social science. Okay.
Okay.
Again, this is not gospel. This is just me telling you my experience. First
Yeah.
is you identify what universities you want to go to. Okay. And this is for all of you. So suppose you want to do your PhD in UK and you said you want to do it in displacement, right? So first you start just by Googling best colleges for getting a PhD in displacement in the United Kingdom. Okay. You're going to come up with some names, right?
Okay.
You
Yeah.
find those, take those down, and then start Googling them individually. So suppose University of Oxford comes on top. Okay. Then you find which is the department that teaches displacement studies in Oxford, right? Because there will be high level of specializations in PhD also. So refugee studies will be separate, development studies will be separate. Displacement might fall in with either of them, or displacement might be a separate discipline there that you have to check, right?
Okay.
Also, it is a good idea to check for allied disciplines. Okay. If you're looking for displacement, you might also be interested in refugee studies. Okay? You might be interested in migration studies. And right now, as someone working with migration, I can tell you a lot of funding is being generated globally for this topic, right?
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
another point you want to consider while doing a PhD is funding, especially if you're trying to go abroad, right?
Okay.
So first of all, you can do it this way. You can identify the university, then the department, then you need to find who are the people there, who are the people that teach in that department, right? And all these university websites have them listed with their email IDs. Okay? You want to zero in on people, right? Identify one or two people from that department, look across universities and start writing down their email IDs and contact information. Okay?
Yeah.
Once you have that, you will need to approach them with your research proposal.
Okay.
Okay. So unless you have a research proposal right now, I'll suggest do these simultaneously. Like start writing a proposal and also start noting down these email IDs.
Okay.
When your proposal is done, drop an email to these people saying that I am so and so from this place. Attach your CV and say, would you like to read my proposal? Okay, I would like, right? That is one way. So if they respond, great. If they don't, you just write to more people. Okay. And now, mind you, there is a difference between PhD and all other taught degree programs. By taught, I
Okay.
mean bachelor's, master's, and all these programs. What happens is, in these taught programs, most of the control is with the university. Okay.
Yeah.
They open application dates on fixed times, they close them on fixed times, the selection goes through all this. Whereas in a PhD, it is, especially because you are planning to apply in Europe, and I've been applying in a lot of countries in Europe, it is a lot of it is controlled by the guide. Okay.
Okay.
So it a lot of it depends on how much you resonate with the person you're writing to, how much you resonate with their work.
Okay.
It is important that when you're identifying a person, you also find out some things they have written. Okay.
Mm.
And you want to download those works, you want to read those. If possible, you want to cite those in your research proposal. You want to show them that you're familiar.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh. Mm.
And this is like a major pointer. So if they write back to you, great. Some of them will write back to you and say, okay, send me a proposal. Some of them will
Mm.
say you can simply apply when the university opens, right?
Mm.
So the calls for admissions usually open once around September. A second round happens around January. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm.
there are the fall and the winter semesters, and that's how they begin. But that's up to universities. That differs from place to place.
Mm.
Since you are specifically focusing on the UK, like,
Mm.
may I know how did this interest come about in the UK, and why you're not considering other countries?
It's not that I'm not considering other countries. Actually, the thing is, I always wanted to study in UK. So I have been looking for that country only, not specifically. But as I'm going through it, researching about it a lot, so I thought I
Right,
will apply for other countries as well.
right,
And mostly, I am interested to apply in Queen's University mostly because uh, I I'm interested in the topic of displacement, basically to do uh, uh, around the area of displacement in Majuli, the river island. So
right.
there is
Of course,
one particular person who does a lot of work on that topic. So I have been tracking his works for a lot of long time. So
perfect.
I really wanted to do on that topic. So yeah,
So right
and
now,
it's
what
very
will
difficult to find people working on that particular front. Like it's very difficult
absolutely,
to find particular people doing work on global south. So how
absolutely.
to go for it, like how to look for it, could you please tell me about that?
So here's the thing. The global south, what happened is initially these
Mhm.
Europeans actually planned on ignoring us, okay, because we were colonized and we were
Yeah.
clearly
Yeah.
not up to their standards and all. But then so many of us started going from here to there that they were legit forced to create departments like South Asian studies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
So these departments are present in all of the UK universities that you're talking about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So while it is indeed difficult to find someone who will work exactly on your research area, you also want to find someone who will be able to connect with the context. So just because someone works on displacement doesn't mean they will, be a good fit with you. At the same time, you
Yeah.
do not have to find someone who exactly works on displacement in Majuli.
Okay. Yeah.
You need to find a balance between both. So if you find a person who does a lot of research on, say, climate induced displacement, which is
Mm-hmm.
the major reason in Majuli, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can definitely work with them. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you want to narrow your scope down so much that you cannot relate your research to other researches happening contemporarily.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
getting a guide who will, it doesn't have to be a guide from the Northeast or those who exclusively work on the Northeast. It
Mm-hmm.
just has to
True.
be someone who is familiar with the global South context
Yeah.
and who is also capable of working on, say, climate induced displacement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even
True. Yeah.
displacement and global South. So you do the equation yourself. That is not something that I'll advise you on. What I will
Yeah.
advise you on is expand your choices a little bit. UK is very expensive. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and
Okay.
have you thought about funding?
Yeah, I got to know recently that it's little difficult to get a funding out there. So I didn't know
So
it earlier, to be honest.
for all of you who are planning to do a PhD abroad, please keep
Yeah.
funding in mind. Okay.
Okay.
Often you want to consider it as your starting point actually. So there,
Okay.
of course, PhD has a lot of scholarships. Okay, a lot.
Yeah.
So you just need to be open to what are the when. A good way is to Google simply that scholarships offered by, say, universities in the UK in social sciences, and
Mm.
subscribe to whatever website you're opening. Okay, go to
Okay.
specific websites of universities and subscribe to updates and newsletters.
Okay.
Okay, so that they keep coming to you and you don't miss out. But
Yeah.
I
Can
will
I
tell you
ask
there are,
you something?
please.
Like, is it difficult? Is it really difficult to get funding or scholarship or any kind of assistantship in UK? Like, is it true basically? Like compared to USA and all?
See, first of all, the PhD structures in USA and UK are very different. In
Yeah.
USA and Europe, actually, right? So
Yeah.
I am
Okay.
going for a PhD in Europe because I don't
Mm.
want to put 6 to 8 years of my life into PhD.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
American PhD typically lasts that long,
Mm.
while a European PhD is going to be limited to approximately 4 years.
Okay.
Okay? So you really cannot compare the two on that basis. Okay?
Yeah.
There is also a lot of funding available there, especially because we are one of the Commonwealth countries, right? So there
Mm.
will be Commonwealth scholarships, there will be specific scholarships that are given out by the university, and there are also scholarships that the Indian government gives for you to go and study in the Europe.
Mm.
You simply need to find out what those are, right? For
Okay.
instance, you want to look into Chevening scholarships,
Okay.
right?
Mm.
You want to look into specific scholarships offered by your home state. A lot of
Yeah.
those are there.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
Bengal, until a few years ago, Mamata Banerjee gave the scholarship called Bisho Bangla Scholarship, which
Huh.
went to SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies, and they would
Okay.
give it scholars each year. I don't know how the scheme is running right now, but it happened. Okay.
Okay.
So, but why I'm asking you to consider other countries, and this is for everyone, there are
Mm.
countries in the Europe with absolutely no tuition fees.
Okay.
Germany, right? And Germany has some brilliant colleges. You want to look at them. Okay, and Germany also operates through a central scholarship system called DAT. I'm going to type it out in the chat box for everyone to be able to Google. The full form is in German. It's Deutschland something something, but it's a central their governmental agency through which you can apply and then get funding, right? So by default, when you're applying, you're eligible for funding. You want to look into courses like that for everyone. Okay. So actually talking to Aishwarya made us discuss a lot of questions that all of you also must be having. Um, I will just take Mallika's question. I completed my MSW in 2018, joined NGO, 24 still working in an NGO. How to get into the process? Mallika, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, sure.
So are you planning to get into a PhD?
If I do, right now I don't know where I'm going to,
Right,
what I'm going to do
right,
or not. But
right,
if I start, then what should be the beginning?
right. So Mallika is, thank you, Mallika. You can mute yourself. So Mallika is actually giving a very interesting perspective. This is an individual who has work experience, right? And then she's thinking about a PhD. You will often find out that this is a better place to start off than directly from an MA. Okay, and this I'm saying for everyone because especially when you're doing your PhD in what you're working on, right? So if Mallika is working on, say, child rights, I'm just giving you an example, and tomorrow she wants to do a PhD on child rights, okay, or some specific issue under child rights, she will have an easier time because people will know that she will have on-field experience, and then theorizing that is not all that difficult. So what Mallika needs to do now, if she wants to do a PhD, she will have to first write a PhD proposal. There are all these online guides available, okay, how to write a PhD proposal. You can look it up. All these universities offer these crash courses, everything. Okay, you can go back and forth with your college professors if you're pally with any one of them, and get reviews. Let your friends read your proposal. Okay, get as many eyes on your proposal as you can. In my certificate course also, we learn how to draft a research proposal, and this is the full reason. Okay, so that if you want to apply, you have the tool. Once you write
Is
your proposal, yeah, Mallika,
okay.
please go ahead.
Is qualifying NET is important to continue to start a PhD?
In India, it is, I'm afraid.
My network is not working properly.
If
Is
you want to,
qualifying
yeah, I heard you.
is qualifying net.
Yes, I heard you, Malika. So if you're planning to pursue your PhD in India and get funding, because you will need a stipend, so that junior research fellowship and senior research fellowship will only come in with qualifying net JRF. So I'm afraid in India, unless you're doing it from a university where they have funding of their own, and they
Okay,
do,
okay.
there are private places where you can apply. But your starting point will be drafting your proposal, right? Once you draft your proposal, you can start looking for places that you can apply to.
Okay.
I will take.
Okay.
Okay, Malika, I will answer Harshvardhan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. You're welcome. So Harshvardhan is asking, what if the research experience is not in the same domain, right? Will it count? Harshvardhan, are you there? Can you unmute?
Yeah. Hi.
Hey. So it's usually a little tricky, especially if you want to show that experience. For instance, if you're someone who's working in a legal background and then you want to get a PhD in, say, creative writing, right? So relating those two will be a little difficult, but it's not impossible. So if suppose, unless like you want to do a PhD in math and you've been working on human rights, then it'll be a difficult correlation, and then you might not
Yeah.
want to use that as a trump card. If it's a related discipline, like, may I know how different your ideas are?
Yeah.
Like, how
So,
different is your work from your thing?
yeah. So currently I'm working with an organization as a research associate,
Right,
which works in health domain.
right,
But like I'm thinking of having a PhD in some sustainability domain.
right.
So those two are like very much different. But as I'm working as a research associate, that experience will be counted, isn't it?
No, perfect. This actually works. I'll tell you why. Because health and sustainability are not all that different when you approach it from a holistic view.
Yeah.
So suppose you're applying for sustainability means a lot of things. Okay, it's not just natural resources, no? So
Yes.
naturally you'll have to deal with a lot of aspects. So in fact, if you can show in your CV that you have worked as a research associate in something like health, or say public health, or for a while, it actually shows that your interests are diverse and you can perhaps bring that element into your research. What I will suggest here is, when you write your proposal, right, maybe have a little bit of a relation with health and sustainability. Like, suppose when you're using resources, right, what are the, if, just a random example, okay, if you use, say, renewable resources, then it also has a better impact on, say, long-term health of human beings or long-term public health, in turn reducing state expenditure on health. So you are correlating a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
So that's a good angle. I think that will help you. I don't think that should be a hindrance, really.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Shreya is asking, you're doing your MA from this, engaging in online certificate course, what other exposure? Right, CV building. Thanks for reminding me that. It's actually very little time to talk about all of this, isn't it? 1 hour. But yeah, Shreya, quickly taking your question, I definitely think you should do as many, and because this year is all about the online thing, right? So do as many courses as you can online, uh, especially things that are going to add some value to your CV. Okay, not simply for the certificate, but the skill that you can show for it. What other exposures can we look forward? Definitely internships. Internships will count as work experience in some of the countries. Okay, so you don't want to miss out on that. Even if it is a work from home internship, even if it is content writing, whatever it is, PR, whatever, just get a relevant internship in your field while you're doing your masters. If you're from TIS, you'll be doing like internships anyway. After, I have actually done 2 internships after quitting my job with NESRC, and those were unpaid internships, right? And after that I got into a job again. So there is like no fixed highway that takes you. It's you need to figure your path out. But like I'm saying, get as much work experience as possible, and internship also counts as work experience in certain places, right? And talk about CV building, right? So guys, this is very important. Okay, as someone who also is a part of hiring people in my organization, and um, I was in an NESRC, and then I've been in a placement head. I've been all these things. A CV is your first impression. Okay, you don't want to screw up with it. You don't want to put like a passport size picture on a CV unless they have asked for it. South Korea is literally the only country in the world who asks for photos on your CV. Other countries don't. So don't bother unless they have asked for it. Please make sure these credentials are clearly mentioned. One, your name. Two, your email ID, contact address. Three, your date of birth, right? And fourth, whatever qualifications you have. You want to start in an order, you want to start from the most recent and then go back. Please do not write things like won multiple competitions. Okay, don't. Choose whatever is the most important out of those multiple competitions of yours and highlight those specifically. Okay, have certain sections in your CV. First, have your biographic information, which is of course your name, all this. Again, sex or gender is not a compulsory, thing to input in your CV. If you're uncomfortable, leave it out. No one can force you, right? But people will need your date of birth to calculate your age. Okay. Then you want to put in your academic qualifications. If you're someone who has work experience, then you want to put work experience before academic qualifications. Up to you. Okay. Or put, when you put your academic qualifications, again it goes like, the most recent goes on top. So if you've done your masters, then masters, bachelors, whatever your marks you've secured in high school, you need to put your grades. Okay, those. So ideally on the left have the descriptive part, on the right have the numerical part. So whatever grade or number you have achieved, it goes there. Next, go to, so biographical information. After that, go to academic qualifications. After that, go to work experience, right? In work experience, get a little creative. You may not have a lot of research experience, okay? But in college, suppose you have written a term paper. Please show it in your research experience. When your CV is a conversation starter, okay? I'm not asking you to lie on it. Please don't lie, it will get you in trouble. But please don't think, oh, this is not all that important, I shouldn't put it on. Make sure to put whatever points are important to you on top, whatever points you want to talk about. I learned this trick in interviews. You actually control the interview, simply by telling them what information you about yourself, like what information are you giving them. They are going to talk about that. So if you want to talk about that amazing backpacking trip you have had across the country after completing your MA, highlight that and you will have conversation around that. But if you are not confident about what you're putting in your CV, then it's going to be a problem for you, because in your interview, they're going to ask you questions from there, right? So, and on your CV, please don't clutter it too much, like restrict it to a 2-page, maximum 3-page thing. Have a shorter 1-page version available. For a lot of places will ask you for a short CV, okay? In those, you want to have your biographic information, you want to have your academic qualifications, you want to have your work experience, and you also want to have maybe 1 or 2 awards if they are like significant. Okay, don't put in your class 2's house competition, all that. But if you've secured something which is like a big deal, then mention it. Apart from this, please write your CV in a professional language, right? Don't, one moment, I'm just trying to connect my charger, otherwise my laptop will conk out. But right, write your CV in a professional language. Please don't start your sentences with I am. Okay, say, don't write I am Sudeshna Roy. Just write name Sudeshna Roy. Okay, do not write flowery language. So I have been greatly accoladed and awarded across school. No. Right? What are your awards? List them out. Treat it like a list. It is a list of the things you have done in your life, and edit it when you are giving it to an organization based on what kind of an organization it is. If I want to work with an NGO, I will try to highlight my work experience. If I want to work with a research organization, I will highlight my research experience. Okay, whatever term papers I've written, whatever dissertations I've written, whatever papers you have in your name, put it there. And if you don't have a paper in your name yet, please start. Okay, you need to have some proof in your hand while you're applying for PhD to show that you can write. And they treat published documents as proof. Okay, especially abroad. Like they will need writing samples. And a writing sample cannot be something that you type out on your computer and send them. You'll have to send them a published article, right? So you need to get started on that. Second thing, if you want to do a PhD in Europe, most of the places are going to require you to take an English language test. Okay, IELTS most commonly. This year, a lot of them have been allowing Duolingo to conduct English tests, and they are counting those scores because of COVID, but it's not a usual happening, right? I don't know if it'll stay, but usually they accept IELTS. They also accept TOEFL. These are the things. These are very expensive tests for no reason. Like I did not think giving that IELTS did anything for me in life, except for allowing me to apply for a PhD that I want. Okay, so definitely if you're considering a PhD, you need to get that examination out of the way. They also do not accept IELTS scores older than 2 years, I think. So if you're planning to apply 2 years later, don't sit for it now. Do the most recent testing. The details, you can always find it on the IELTS website. I will type it out for everyone again, so you're not confused with the spelling or anything. Right? Okay. Shreya, I hope I have given enough information. Sudeshna is asking. Okay, you're welcome. Sudeshna is asking how to get into a research organization. Find out which are the research organizations around you or in your country. Simple. Look it up. Internet is a magical thing. Have a CV ready, right? Have a cover letter. Again, cover letters have these formats. You'll find formats in Microsoft Word also. They have templates. You'll also find formats in Google Docs. Okay, these are very helpful tools which you do not know about, but which can make your life so much easier. Right? So find out a format for a cover letter, or you can simply Google it. There are lots. A student covering letter that goes to organizations and all. You want to write, so you do not repeat information from your CV. Okay, in a covering letter, you write why do you want to work with them, and why do you relate to their work, and in what ways do you think will you be mutually beneficial. Okay, and you start mailing it out. Do not think if you're qualified or not. Trust me, and this, guys, you want to apply. Okay, if Kanye West can think of running for presidency, we can apply for the jobs we want. I keep saying this. So that's how you do it. I will move on to the next question. I'm currently teaching sociology in the school, but I also want to pursue in social psychology. That's interesting. I've qualified NET in 2017. Absolutely. So PhDs happen in two ways. There's a full-time and there's a part-time. Part-time PhDs are meant for professionals like you, especially teachers, because I believe your educational institution will also have the opportunity to give you a sabbatical to complete your PhD. Like they do not give you the full 4 or 5 years, but they might allow you a year to do your research and all that. I know professors of mine who have taught and done their PhD simultaneously. So this is absolutely a possibility. You simply need to look up part-time PhDs. Okay. Sadiq is asking, how do I do internship with a professor? This is very informal. You need to approach a professor. I will tell you how. All these universities, many of our professors work on projects. Okay, the projects they get themselves, research projects. You need to approach them and you need to say that, sir, I want to write a paper. Will you guide me? Okay, or sir, if you have a research, or ma'am, or whoever, if you have a research project in hand, can I work with you? Can I be an apprentice? Can I be an assistant? That's simply how you do it. And you know what, do not expect to get paid for it in the beginning. As unfortunate as it is, it doesn't make you money in the beginning. Okay, so while you're studying, doing internships is actually a great way to go. Okay, do I have any more questions, guys? You can unmute yourself and ask.
Kusumika, if you allow me to ask a question, maybe. I think Sudeshna, did you want to ask a question?
Actually, I wanted to ask, I had once approached, I think, a research organization. Although I wrote a cover letter and I wrote a small proposal after what Kusumika they taught us in the cohort, and then I sent it. But like I know it was not that good that I could get anything back. Although I got one reverting message from their side that if we are available, or if we have something related to your field of study, and then we will contact you back. Like, should I then go around giving it in many other
Absolutely.
research organizations too?
Absolutely. This is not a
Okay.
monogamous marriage. Okay. You are not in contract. Okay. You are, unless they are taking you, they cannot stop you. So please go ahead and apply to as many places as possible. Okay. Sir, please.
Yeah.
You were asking something.
Yeah, so Kusumika, I think great insights shared, and thanks to all participants for also uh, creating that opportunity for Kusumika also to help all of you with her stories and her perspective. I had a question which I'm sure must be playing at the back of everyone's mind. Is it, Kusumika, that we are still in a pandemic and lockdown, and we are kind of hopeful that next year possibly the vaccine will be out, but that is like hoping against hope. And I understand that the academic year has turned out to be online for most of us, including, if I'm not mistaken, uh, PhD also has gone online, and I think that's how it is. When you look at this form of working, just not a PhD, but even like say research, what do you think, Kusumika, would be certain important areas or skills, or maybe things that you feel are important for say undergraduate students or postgraduate students, research aspirants, or even PhD aspirants to uh, keep in their checklist, keeping in mind that maybe going out for a field work physically may be restricted, and there might be a lot of interaction online even with universities abroad. uh,
Sure.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Actually, my own classes are starting from Monday and it's online, and I have to juggle my job and classes, and while writing a paper at my job also, because I'm a researcher. So this question is actually very pertinent, and I'm hoping that this is a temporary situation, wouldn't last very long. Even then, if you're planning to get into research, please make sure your conversation skills. Please take up courses wherever you find on communication. Okay, take up courses wherever you find on writing. Okay, courses that Catalyst offers on this certificate training in research, which actually combines both writing, getting it out. You know, now we cannot go to the field and do the work. I'm hoping that this is going to get over in 2021. We'll be back on the field. But in case it doesn't, right? And internet is not a luxury that everyone has. Hmm? And especially if you're doing your research with people who are different from you, your telephonic skills need to be very good. Yeah, I'll tell you the skills of a good conversation. First of all, you do not cut in. Okay, like especially when you're conversing on a telephone, because you cannot see the person, right? And when you're talking and when you're taking interviews, you must not interrupt. When they're saying something, please let them finish. It's better to have like 10 extra seconds of silence in the middle if you're not sure. Okay. Second is like, be punctual, be on time, because you will have to take meetings that have been planned from before. It's not like the field where you go and then you approach people and say, oh, are you free, can I have an interview, right? Because you will have to take your interviews from before. So being organized is again a very important thing. You need to schedule your things. Okay, so if you have your communication writing, also the way to approach people, like I said, please do not be like those journalists who shove up mics up people's faces and say, how are you feeling? That is not a good way to go about it. Also, you need to know how to find your respondents, right? This is a skill that we learn in research, but this is also another skill that becomes relevant during a pandemic where you cannot go and see. So you need to find one point of contact wherever you feel this. And then from that point of contact, you need to start snowballing. Snowballing is a method. It's again a technical term. you will know that once you get into research. It's nothing to worry about it now. It simply means, like if you make a snowball and then if you roll it on snow, it keeps on gathering snow and getting bigger, right? So that's how you accumulate contacts. You know a few and then you start rolling it. So from this person's friend, that person's wife, you start going ahead. So these should set you up, but heavy emphasis on communication, writing, organization, and analysis. Because suppose if your fieldwork is limited, you will need to replace that with um, literature review, okay, with analysis of other people's work. There is a chance that your research is going to become more secondary than you had planned. So in that case, heavy, capability of doing a secondary review without plagiarism. So being responsible with your work, right? Um, we have another question from Devankita. Few research organizations related to the field of history. Sure, Devankita, you definitely want to look at the Partition Museum. Okay, I was working with them for a while. There is a Amritsar office, there is a Delhi office, and there is one Kolkata chapter which they are trying to open. But there are several organizations like this. The Oral History Project, you want to look them up. I hope you're noting. So there's Partition Museum, there's the Oral History Project, there will be around, because partition studies are rare in Bengal, although we have been a border state and we are still facing all these repercussions, but often what gets highlighted is the North Indian partition. So a lot of work surrounding history happens there, right? In Kolkata, you also want to look at Pratichi Trust. Okay, the spelling is this. This is Amartya Sen's thing. Look up these things, and also be open to other organizations working on historical topics, so that you don't just think about oh, I can only work with history. You can also do a lot of interdisciplinary work. That's not a problem. Okay guys, I totally got derailed from something important that I was going to tell you. I told you how to apply for a PhD through a university and then approaching your guide and all that. There is another way, and actually this is the second way that has worked out for me. I looked out for advertisements of separate departments or areas of interest and all. For instance, I'll give you my example. I saw an advertisement for this place called Ireland India Institute, right? Ireland India Institute is a school in Dublin City University. They have a lot of funding. Okay, they have tremendous funding. And it works out for me because they do specific research on India. Just a while ago, someone was asking that it's difficult to find people working on South Asia. Excuse me. But imagine having like a whole resource center research place dedicated to India. So these things are happening and they are in all universities. You just need to check it out. Look for departments of South Asian studies, like I said. So anyway, Ireland India Institute advertised for these 4 PhD positions, which are fully sponsored. You also, while looking for funding, you want to see if they will cover both your tuition and your living costs. Okay, because without living costs, it's going to be difficult. Mind you, we all earn in rupees here and you'll be spending in pound or euro, right? So that's a huge jump. You want to see that your living expenses are covered. So I saw the scholarship, I liked it, and then they listed out some topics, okay, and gave a supervisor contact. So they said I actually applied to both. I applied for, one was in Northeast and it was peace and conflict. So it was perfectly up my alley. But it is actually the second one which worked out for me, and it was on Indian politics, right? And my supervisor is this amazing lady who I wrote to, and she said, okay, I'll read your proposal. I gave her my proposal and she was interested. And then I gave an interview. From that interview, I got selected, and that was it. Like, then, of course, there is a lot of paperwork that follows. But in this university, at least, I have met such friendly people, I cannot tell you. Admin wise, supervisor wise, you do not expect it. Usually, you are not supposed to approach your supervisor for administrative tasks. Okay, but mine has been super lucky in that way. But for you guys, for admin, you approach the university office. From the supervisor, you simply have to know if they are willing to work with you. Okay, then when you apply, what you do, if your supervisor is hands-on, very nice. If not, You need to figure it out according to the university dates. PhD programs are more flexible. They have entry points. They take multiple entries throughout the year. Okay, if you miss one deadline, you can apply for the next. Please look at, I also looked at New Zealand. I looked at Australia. Australia has a certain difficulty that you need to have a certain GPA in order to be even able to apply. Okay, otherwise your application goes straight to trash. It doesn't even reach the supervisor. So New Zealand has this very famous university called the University of Otago. Anyone interested in peace and conflict, displacement, indigenous rights, it is one of the best places. Sweden is a country that gives you a stipend to do a PhD, okay, by default. They treat you as an employee. You are entitled to insurance, you are entitled to vacations, all of that, all employee benefits, okay, and no tuition. Uppsala is one of the top universities in the world. Okay, Lund University, one of the top in the world. You want to look at these. You want to look at Germany, you want to look at France. France has some conditions, you need to know French. Like otherwise it doesn't make much sense. But USA, definitely again a very tempting choice, right? But in order to go to USA, you will also need to appear for an examination called the GRE, and a lot. Actually, I think most universities there will require it. GRE is another, and GRE requires some heavy preparation. Okay, so I will suggest narrow down on some countries, see what are their conditions, okay, how they work, and then decide on the tests you need to take, because you will have to take something or the other. Sometimes the university excuses you, but the visa office stops you. Okay, so I need to have my IELTS score for the visa, not even for my university. Okay, so these are technical difficulties you need to clear when you are applying for a PhD. And otherwise, just having a good solid proposal and getting it reviewed by as many people as you can. Okay, that is, end of the day, that is your trump card to getting in anywhere. So keep funding in mind, have a proposal ready, get it read by people, right? Have two referees. This is important. Anywhere you apply, even in India, you want to talk to your employer, your professor, preferably one academic reference, one some PhDs prefer employment reference, but mostly just two academic references, right? That's it. That's pretty much it. And after that, it's just figuring it out how it comes, right? But most of them do not have a written entrance exam for a PhD. So yeah, that's my rant, I guess. For anything else, you might approach Sir. He's here. I'll be happy to hold another session, whatever you need, right? Just one more question. Okay, Devankita is asking one more query, MPhil entrances, and now I'm skeptical that. Okay, Devankita, if you honestly ask me, do not go for an MPhil. Please go for some work experience, especially in this context, because MPhil is going to get scrapped. Your degree is not going to be valid, right? So, and you will learn a lot more doing a research associateship if the place is hands-on, research assistantship, anything, okay, more than a classroom MPhil is going to teach you. This much I can vouch for. So at this point, I think really just, take your shots, go for a work, an internship opportunity, whatever you can find, get 2 years of work experience on your CV, please. Okay, that's it, sir.
Thank you so much, Kusumika. I think to sum things up, most importantly, the motivation to do a research is a fundamental aspect for all of us, especially in the context that over the years, let's accept that the quality of research, especially possibly, in the context of our country or done within our country, whether you might agree or might disagree, has not been that great. And I guess that also reflects in a lot of our choices. When I was setting this session up, and I was just wondering that, simple information and simple decisions that we take, including say policies by the government, things that we do and we plan, so much of it owes its uh, efficacy. This word has been used a lot nowadays with the aspect of vaccines in COVID-19. The efficacy of decision and information and choices are dependent definitely on research. And this is, this is what I think Kusumika has always believed in. Whenever we have discussed and, we have structured out her courses, that research is a way of thinking. Research is not like a subject that you're studying. Research is not like something that only you specialize upon and the others can't. Research is not that an advantage that you have, but rather a method in which you want to create an advantage for everyone. So your work, as Kusumika mentioned, in the communication flow, in its representation, has to reach out to a wider scope. It has to go deep, make people understand the worth of it, the impact of it. And it's also very important on that note that we are responsible with our research. We choose topics that that possibly addresses problems, addresses issues. So for me, this has been again a learning session. I'm sure, like for all of you, and we also have to get into the habit of picking up from where we left and also to unlearn. We keep on talking about that. Before we just kind of round this off, I would like to inform all of you that compared to the time we were in at the beginning of the lockdown, now the focus is no more on lockdown, but everyone is talking about unlocking, right? And you will find that slowly and steadily, we are trying our best to bring back the normalcy of our systems, right? We are even talking about like a post-Diwali, opening of schools and colleges that kind of is doing the rounds. Kusumika mentioned that her PhD classes and sessions are starting very soon online. So it is important that all of us now don't be so much dependent on when a vaccine can come out, but rather try to use, as she mentioned, the best of your time with the resources at hand. And that goes without saying that feel free to reach out to us for any help whatsoever. At the most, we can kind of connect you with, maybe a specific person, or maybe we can share some feedback from our end. But whether I feel it comes to any support connected to research proposal, identifying people and places, networking, again, possibly an invaluable soft skill in this world now. And of course, any level of specific real understanding, reach out to us. I'm going to share, of course, my email ID to all of you. I think most of you know that, but I'm still going to share support@catalanserve.com. And I think Kusumika, feel free to, if you want your email ID to be shared with everyone, so that people can reach out to us. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Sabahat. Very flattering. Okay, I guess that wraps us up.
Thanks a lot, Kusumika. Thank you so much, participants, right? Keep thinking, keep deliberating, stay connected, very important, right? And believe in your strengths, very, very crucially. I feel there is so much communication happening from all around of how things are going to shape up. But I feel this is also a time when you have to have that belief in yourself that you can actually have control on the systems around us. Thanks a lot, Kusumika. All the best, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, maintain COVID protocols, and do write back to us for any specific support that you need. All the best. Bye-bye. Thank you.